threat of local sheriffs.
Hey, say it right, brother. Edomites.
Right. I'm gonna say it again.
Yep.
And the constant
Edomite dukes or sheriffs.
Yep. And the constant threat of local Edomite sheriffs, slave catchers, or check this out.
Okay.
Or civilian lynch mobs. Who's that? Basically the KKK.
Can you get Psalms 10, please? In lurking places. Can we please get that? Right. The lynch mob, KKK. All right. And in Syracuse, we camped outside with the Elder Monaghan, the escape of Jerry.
Yep.
All right, Jerry Judah.
Yep.
Because they had him in court and they had to pull him. See, Esau's legal system was always set up against us. All right? Always set up against us.
I'm trying to look for it.
Oh, his name's, we call him Jerry Judah.
Oh, okay.
No, his name's not. But, brother, at home, they can look it up.
Yeah.
Or in the post-production, just put it in. You know, you put it in later. But Syracuse is right down the street from Rochester. All right?
I roll away.
We got it.
Yeah, I'm going to start at 4.
Okay.
Psalms 10 and 4. Actually, I'll just start at... I got to
start at 1. Okay, and then after that, we'll read that account again.
Psalms 10, verse 1. Why standest thou afar off, O Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai? Why hidest thyself in times of our trouble? The wicked...
Swing low, sweet chariot.
Yep.
Why were so-called Negroes singing songs like that?
Negro spirituals.
Thank you, brother. Why did who you know as Negroes create churches called Zion? Or say, swing low, sweet chariot to carry me home? Why? Because these are psalms of the Israelites in captivity.
The wicked in his pride doth persecute the poor. Let them be taken in the devices that they have imagined. For the wicked of his heart's desire, for the wicked boasted of his heart's desire, and blessed the covetous whom the Lord abhorreth. The wicked through the pride of his countenance will not seek after the Most High. And the Most High is not in all his thoughts. His ways are always grievous. Thy judgments are far above out of his sight. As for all his enemies, he puffeth at them. And it says his ways are grievous, man.
Yep.
And who's his ways mainly grievous to? The Israelites, because he's a vile man. So he makes us a society. He built Sodom and Gomorrah for us to live in, man. You know, he put us in a slavery state and cut us off from our power.
Yep.
That's very grievous.
Yep.
Then he set up laws, Jim Crow laws, black laws, if you will,
Yep.
to keep us in an oppressed state, man.
While claiming freedom.
And then when we were so-called free, what did he do? Hit us with woman's lib.
Yeah.
You know, then he hit us with the crack epidemic.
Yeah.
Then the music industry. So you never stop attacking.
Well, let's not forget this same landmass Susan B. Anthony would speak at. Well, she was only for Shedemite women rights. And let it be known in history, her and Frederick Douglass were not good friends. Okay? Because he was against, because all she was about was her people. So they couldn't mix. Did you get the lurking part?
It's a little more.
Okay.
It says, his ways are always grievous, and thy judgments are far above out of his sight.
Yeah, his ways are always grievous. It's still grievous now. Even though we're out here and we're preaching in Thawadi Abashim Shai, but we're still grieved with his oppression through his system. The holes in our pockets.
And it says, thy judgments, meaning the Most High's judgments, are far out of his sight. I mean, he abhorred the Most High's judgments, man. This motherfucker have the Bible in the courtroom, make you swear on it, but doesn't uphold anything in the Bible.
Yep. The year of Jubilee, the year of release, nothing. You know?
He said in his heart, I shall not be moved, for I shall never be in adversity. His mouth is full of cursing and deceit and fraud. Under his tongue is mischief and vanity. He sitteth in the lurking places of the villages. In the secret places doth he murder the innocent. His eyes are privily set against the poor.
Yep. So just like now, his eyes are constantly on a black kid, Spanish kid, right? Just like back then, he was, hey boy, come here, show me your papers. And just because you were free didn't mean that you were cool with them. Get out of here, boy.
Right.
Just because you were free in the North didn't mean, just like right now, just because we're free, Esau treats us still, if he could, enslave us.
Yeah.
The brother brought it out point. The movie Antebellum, basically, if they could, they'd put us back in slavery. If they look at the police alone, the police alone are in the same spirit of, hey boy, what plantation you from? You live around here? Show me your papers. License and registration. See?
It says, he lied in wait secretly as a lion in his den. He lied in wait to catch the poor. He don't catch the poor when he drawed him into his net.
Oh, he drawed into his net. So this is literally what happened out here. They will come out with lynch mobs and sheriffs and draw you in. Now the net, is the system, the police, things of that nature. But before that, it was literally nets.
Right now, the net is college.
Yeah, yeah. The web,
Voting.
yeah. But before that, they literally would, and you'd be a chain like a spider catching its flies, and you're lynched, and you're the scene in Django, and you're walking. It's nighttime. You got metal on your mouth.
It's cold as fuck.
Shirt
on.
Keep going.
I'm reading again. It says, escaped slaves faced a life of hardship with little food and frequent access to shelter or medical care, and the constant threat of local Edomite sheriffs, slave catchers, or civilian lynch mobs.
Civilian, see? What do you have today? Citizen's arrest. How many times have you seen an Edomite cop arresting an Israelite man and an Edomite civilian helps that cop? Time and time again. Okay? He'll just walk out of nowhere in the camera view, and he don't know what this man done, but he just sees an Edomite arresting an Israelite. Let me help the Edomite. Just like back then. Keep going.
It says, plantation owners whose slaves ran away frequently place runaway slave advertisements in local newspapers. Such ads often included a person's physical description, likely location or destination.
And now can you read the Aaron and Ape one again?
Oh, yep.
You actually have the picture,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah, can you read that for it? Read the thing, and while you're reading that, I'll just show the camera. Yeah. So read that part again, what they did.
It says, plantation owners whose slaves ran away frequently place runaway slave advertisements
With rewards, let's add, right? And they place an advertisement and a reward if you got them.
It's gonna say it too.
Okay.
It says in local newspapers, such ads often included a person's physical description,
Yeah.
likely location or destination.
Now let me read this real quick for you, okay? So we're gonna show you, but I'm gonna read it first. It says, because it's breaking everything down, and we have an actual reward poster for a runaway slave in Missouri. Now he escaped from Missouri to head where? Up north. So this was to warn other states of a slave escaping from Missouri. He might be, in Georgia right now. He might be already as far as North Carolina.
Right.
Well, let's go as far as Pennsylvania, even though it's a free state.
Right.
Let's go look for him. And this is what it says, because they refuse to let them go. Okay? It says $500 reward. Now, in the 1820s, $500, that's a lot of money.
Right.
Hey, $500 would be a nice, even now.
Right.
So how much more back then?
Right. That's probably like a couple grand.
Exactly. And it says, ran away from the undersigned on Sunday the 9th, a Negro boy named Aaron or Ape. Who do you think gave him the name Ape? And it's very spiritual. His name would be what? Aaron. Okay? And it says he is about 20 years old.
And guess what? It got that movie called what? The Planet of the Apes.
Yep.
In the spirit, they probably changed his name. Like, what's the nigga doing with a name like Aaron?
Exactly.
They show you that also, I believe, on 12 It's like, they say, what you doing with a name like Noah? And he changed his name.
See? It says he's about 20 years old, 6 feet high. Well, brother, you look about 20. You look about 6 feet high. You Aaron? No, sir. My name's Marar. Now, here he is. And then you get what? Kidnapped.
All y'all look alike.
Right? So there's no picture. It's just a description. How many Israelites you know that have a young look and they're at least 6 feet tall?
Well, how many people want that $500?
Exactly.
You gonna bring someone.
Yeah.
So he actually made it, you can make a living off of going and hunting niggas down.
Yeah.
He made it where you can make a living and going hunting niggas down and bring them back to their master.
Bounty hunting.
And it don't matter. If you really gonna look for an ape, no. You're gonna see somebody that close to the description. Where's my $500?
Hey, well, look at this. It says, with rather unusually large legs and arms. He's a big brother. He's a big brother. You know what I mean?
Esau weak, he's stronger than you.
It'd be a wrap. If you got some size, do you? And it says, walks bent forward with one foot outward, then the other. I will give $150 reward for him if taken in the county, 100 reward if taken in the counties of this, 200 if taken in any Mississippi county, and 500 if taken out of the state. 3 miles south, Middle Grove, Monroe County, which we're actually in Monroe County, but this is Monroe County, Missouri. We're in Monroe County, New York. Very spiritual. So let's keep going. So that's just to give you a glimpse of, and imagine how many other flyers. I'll say this, imagine how many of these flyers took Jake's life? How many times? And what do they do that? What's today? Modern day. There's a black man, middle age 20.
Yep.
We're looking for such and such. That's literally today.
10 and 4. Yep.
Literally on the news.
How many Jakes did like 30 plus years for a crime they didn't commit?
Just because they fit the descriptions. You fit the description.
Man.
You see?
And it says,
So yes, we're under curses, but the main battery that keeps the curses lights on is Esau. You know?
and it says, and information about temperament, at least as perceived by the plantation owner, while rewards varied, they could run as high as $1,000, a not unreasonable price considering the lifetimes of free labor a southern planter could hope to extract from a slave and his or her children.
See, so he was willing to pay up to $1,000 because he's like, once I get him back, I'm gonna make tenfold. I need that worker back. You okay? Let's keep going.
It says not all runaway slaves fled to the north. Many fugitives sought refuge in cities such as Atlanta, Charleston, or Richmond, where they could blend easily into existing African American populations, often with the help of other fugitive or free blacks. Some runaways established
Free Israelites.
Right, free Israelites. Some runaways established freedmen's encampments.
Freemen, see? No, we're free men.
Mm-hmm.
Are you Aaron? No, I'm freeman.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm. Says a
I'm a
freedmen's.
free man.
Yep.
There's free men here.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
A freedmen's encampments in rugged rural areas where they could remain hidden from slave catchers or local legal authorities, Edomites.
Damn.
Such groups often supported themselves by stealing food and supplies from nearby plantations. For slaves who lived in border states such as Maryland, Kentucky, and Virginia, the journey to freedom could be short and less terrorizing. It said, man.
So that it wasn't short, it was long, and it was terrorizing.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very terrible ordeal. All right, that you weren't made right. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it messed you up mentally, psychologically. You were smitten with madness and paranoia and the astonishment of heart. You know, and real quick, if you got it, brother, or read it when you got it.
Quote it again.
Where it says you should go to them for want of all
okay,
need.
right here, I got it.
Can you read it real quick? Because it just said that if they did want food, here it is, they escaped from one plantation, but then they would have to go to another one just for food.
Steal it, right.
Deuteronomy 28 and 47. Because thou servest not Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai thy power with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things, therefore shalt thou serve thine enemies, which Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in want of all things.
Want freedom, want food, want shelter, you're going to have to go through Esau still. That's why you also had those Quakers in 1814 and 1814, it was illegal for them to own slaves, so they were against slavery, but some of them were Edomites that helped Jake. Why? Because that was a part of the curses. We had to go to them for want of all things. So even Esau, at a low level, played a part in us escaping slavery, but not fully, you know.
And he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck.
And if you Google yoke of iron, what comes up?
Iron.
Yep, Django.
Yep.
You know, so on and so forth. Literally iron. That's why now they'll clinch you with those metal handcuffs, cut off your circulation, throw you in the thing. You know? You got it, brother? If you want to show them
A
real
little bit more.
Yep.
It says, until he have destroyed thee.
And yep, destroyed thee what? Mentally. Because he needed you to be a worker. Oh, Willie Lynch letter.
Kill the
Brain.
and keep the body.
Kill the brain and keep the body.
Come on,
That's why
dude.
he kept doing rewards. You know?
It's acting up, but here it is.
Just go to the other one with the actual iron.
Damn, let's see.
Right there, just the kunta. There it is right there.
Not the phone. Fuck it up.
Yeah, that's good. That's the yoke of iron. There you go. Yeah. And we'll put it in we'll put it on later. So now let's read a little bit more. Then we got one more article to kind of hit some more underground, and then we're gonna transition into Rochester itself.
And it says, where's that slot here? Yep, it says, some runaways established freedmen's encampments and rugged rural areas where they could remain hidden from slave catchers or local legal authorities. Such groups often supported themselves by stealing food and supplies from nearby plantations.
Yeah, going them for want of all things, right? Did not they had to go to Edom to ask if they could cut through his land? Did they not have to go to Edomites throughout America if they could stay here for the night? Hide me. You know, the movie Rosewood's a great example. They were going through with the bloodhounds. The dude was hiding in the shop, and then the dude didn't want to let him stay there, and he said, Don't you know I know what you do to my daughter?" So here it is, he was having sex with this Israelite's daughter, but when the slave gang came, he wouldn't allow that same girl's father who he was popping, allow him to hide in his store. So Esau sleep with your daughter, but won't hide the father. You know?
And it says,
Disgusting, man.
for slaves who lived in border states such as Maryland, Kentucky, and Virginia.
Yeah, bordered with what? Because crossing that border was a free territory, right? Keep going. But they had jurisdiction to go through these free states to kidnap you and bring you back. All right?
It says the journey to freedom could be short and less terrorizing. The long, unguarded border of Pennsylvania, for example, represented an ideal opportunity for slaves in cities such as Baltimore. Slaves who lived with access to fresh and saltwater ports, often stowed away or hired on as hands on northbound vessels. Once they reach a free port, the fugitives jumped ship to freedom. The passage of the Second Fugitive Slave Act in 1850,
See, this Fugitive Slave Act. Yep.
made escape from bondage harder than ever. Under the provisions of the act, slaves who escaped to free states or federal territories could be forcibly returned to their masters. Anyone who aided a fugitive slave and federal marshals who failed to enforce the law faced severe punishment. Slaves taken to court for breaking the fugitive slave law could not testify on their own behalf and were not allowed the right to a jury trial.
Read that, see? Once they kidnapped you and brought you to a court, read that part again. They couldn't do what?
It says slaves taken to court for breaking the fugitive slave law, it says could not testify on their own behalf.
So they couldn't say a word. Now imagine if that wasn't an actual runaway slave and it was a so-called free man.
Right.
You couldn't even tell them that you were free and you had a family.
And that's exactly what happened to Solomon.
Solomon.
That's exactly what happened to him.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it says, and were not allowed the right to a jury trial. In the North, Hicksite Quakers and other abolitionists provided some of the most organized support for the Underground Railroad.
Look, that's the point.
Okay,
That's
Yep.
hatred.
Yep. Yep.
That's what you call hatred.
Yep. Now, if you want, go into this.
Okay. Now this is says the Black History Month 2012.blogspot.com. All right, and it says a gastronomic tour through Black History Month in 2012. And it says the Underground Railroad escaped to freedom. It says freedom is something that most of us take for granted,
Yeah.
even today, as we wake up and go wherever we want to,
See?
or need to.
That's why with today, with our people, the way they act, you know, they act as if what we went through never happened. Okay? And if you truly sat down and really thought about what happened, you couldn't just be rapping and twerking and living your best life.
It will rouse you up. It will stir up
Exactly.
your mind.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Because you're surrounded by the ancestors of the same people that oppressed you, and they're still oppressing you today. And still today, can you get Jeremiah 50:5? There's no sympathy. Now, are we asking for it? No, but it does need to be addressed. What you've done, there's no sympathy for it. It's just brushed under the rug. Or you look at us like we're the problem addressing it, or saying that's racism, or that's hatred, or that's wicked, or that's vile. You see? Read that real quick, please.
Jeremiah 15:5. For who shall have pity upon thee, O Jerusalem, or who shall bemoan thee, or who will go aside to ask how thou doest?
Never. That's never happened. Now you have small skirmishes, but in a whole, there is no mourning or pity for what has been done to us. Even to this day, if you want to grab Psalm 78, they speak lawfully against oppression. Even to this day, they make fun of slavery. They make slave movies. All right, they'll blatantly show you a white actor raping a black woman portraying herself as a slave, showing you this literally happened. But then we're just supposed to walk around in a kumbaya, you know, everything's okay. Oh, salvation's for everyone. That's not the case.
We're POWs.
We're prisoners of war. All right. You want to read a little more?
Yep, it says or need to go there are millions of people in the world who cannot. Many of them, so like it says, many of them are literally slaves working long, torturous hours and says in inhumane conditions, beaten into submission for no money. Slavery in America was considered legal from 1619 when the country was still a group of English colonies until the 13th Amendment was passed in 1865. Most of the slaves, men, women, and children, were of African descent, no Israelite descent,
Yeah.
and owned by white masters to live on their plantations and work their crops.
Now, some of them were tares because remember, Esau, Edom would rape our women and men. Okay, in slavery, he would buck break the men in front of his family, and then he would rape the women as well. And then the woman would get pregnant, and she'd have to bear the slave master's child while still being married to this man who got buck broke. She's supposed to give birth to that baby and then raise it while being in slavery. This is what he's done.
With that parable.
Yep.
This is the book of St. Matthew 13 and verse 24. It says, another parable put he forth unto them, saying, the kingdom of heaven is likened unto a man which sowed good seed in his field. But while men slept, his enemy came in and sowed tares among the wheat.
Now, real quick, it said while the enemy slept. Now, that's a precept to what we read earlier in Revelations 11. Their dead bodies shall lie in a great city for those 3 days and a half. So while we were sleeping, while we were in a low state, you know, where we were just trying to get freedom. We weren't trying to go, back to Israel. We were just trying to get freedom from the condition we were in. So while we were in this condition, all right, he would sleep with the women. Not sleep, he would rape them. Now, some of the women did it willingly, but also they did it forcefully on them. Okay, they beat them into submission. All right, and then he impregnated them just like he did on the ships, and then he made them have the babies, and then he put the baby right in the field.
That's what they did to kids.
Yep.
And it says, but while men slept, his enemy came and sowed tares among the wheat and went his way. But when the blade was sprung up and brought forth fruit, then appeared the tares also. So the servants of the householder came and said to him, Sir, didst not thou sow good seed in thy field? From whence then had the tares? He said unto them, an enemy have done this. The servants said unto him, Wilt thou then that we go and gather them up? But he said, Nay, lest while ye gather up the tares, ye root up also the wheat with them.
Right, meaning you can't tell someone per se. That's why it just got to play out. If you're an Israelite, you'll know. If it's a tare, you'll know. Meaning you're going to have people of color that actually, parents go back to being Edomites. So just because they look black don't mean they are. Mm-hmm. Not all kinfolk, or not all skin folk is kinfolk. Mm-hmm. All right, but that was a prophecy that Esau, Edom would come in and put his seed in the midst of our people. But he did that through oppression, slavery, and rape. All right, and then he does it, and our women are so destroyed that they're actually sleeping with him willfully. Okay, they're sleeping willfully with the ancestors of men that raped our women forcefully at one point in time. Mm-hmm. Terrible history.
And it says,
that's the point, right?
You
want to get
go to verse 30.
Yeah. Go now. Jump down to where he explains it.
All right. Verse 29 says, it's like in verse 30. It says, "Let both grow together until the harvest, and in the time of harvest, I will say to the reapers, Gather ye together first the tares, and bind them in bundles to burn them, but gather the wheat into my barn."
Yeah.
And
you got just to let them know the breakdown of the parable. The wicked is the.
And it says, verse 34. All these things spake Yahushua unto the multitude of parables, and without a parable spake he not unto them, that it might be fulfilled which was spoken by the prophet, saying, I will open my mouth in parables, I will utter things which have been kept secret from the foundation of the world. Then Yahushua sent the multitude away, and went to the house, and his disciples came unto him, saying, Declare unto us the parable of the tares of the field. He answered and said unto them, He that soweth the good seed is the Son of Man. Yeah. The field is the world. Yeah. And the good seed are the children of the kingdom,
Israel.
But the tares are the children of the wicked one.
See, and how did that happen? Mm-hmm. By him raping during slavery and impregnating those women. Okay, let's just go back.
Back in the article, it says, by white masters to live on their plantations and work their crops of tobacco, cotton, sugar, and coffee.
Cotton, sugar, coffee, tobacco. Okay? And there's pictures, if you want to show them this one,
Yep.
right in the cotton field. Okay? There wasn't an age requirement. Now you could be 16 with a reference and a social security number. Did they need any of that? You know?
Nope.
They didn't need none of that. Okay? And they had us out, like the brother Marar said, from can't see to can't see. All right? Weak, beaten. All right? Then they had quotas they had to meet. And then the whole time you got Esau on a horse riding back and forth with a whip, with a gun. All right? Keeping you in constant fear or whipping you. All right? This was the conditions that our people were going through under him.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like he just hired us to work in the field. It was torture. He tortured you. He tortured you so bad that Jake had to run away. Because, come on, Israel, you know, if you give them a good enough, they ain't going nowhere.
Right.
But Esau made you run away, man. Let's keep going, brother.
And it says, by the early decades of the 19th century, the overwhelming majority of slaveholders and slaves were in the southern United States.
Mm-hmm.
By the Civil War, most slaves were held in the Deep South. It was literally back-breaking and sometimes soul-destroying.
Yeah.
Soul, S-O-U-L, destroying.
And real quick, though, you need to know that the Civil War was not over slavery, okay? The Civil War was more of a politics, all right? Because you had the Rothschilds. You actually had a man by the name of Salomon Rothschild that was here in the time of the Civil War, and he would bring a conflict between the North and the Southern. All right, so the Civil War was the Rothschilds' way of getting back America because Abraham Lincoln created a greenback that wasn't backed by gold or silver. All right, so this was separating America from the international bankers. So the Civil War was not over slavery, but it was added in as a reasoning of why this war is taking place. But that's not true at all, okay? Because after the Civil War, the Ku Klux Klan, segregation, Jim Crow, it never ended. If Civil War was over slavery, then why did you have all these persecutions still taking place? Lynchings, hangings, okay? So let's keep going.
And it says, and many slaves would do anything to break the chains of servitude.
See?
Before
And
Abraham,
Jake does that now. But he sells his soul to Esau. I'll do anything to get out the ghetto that you put me in through race riots.
Right.
I'll do anything to buy my mom a home that you forced my father's father to leave so she can get welfare. I'll do anything to stop looking like myself. All right, well, put these skinny, right? That's what he did to you, man. Okay?
it says before Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation in 1865, following the Civil War.
Right, because before 1865, you did have certain states that were free. All right, but that's why we emphasize about the slave catchers. Just because they were called free states didn't mean you had freedom there. Okay, just because they were slave states didn't mean you had freedom there. All right, keep going. If you got a precept.
It says some slaves, mostly in northern states, were either given their freedom or were able to purchase it. Also, most states in the north had already outlawed slavery, making them free states, quote unquote.
So yeah, quote unquote, it was free. But remember, we have laws where we can still go in these free states and take it.
Right.
You know? You got something? I'm still looking. Okay. I got Psalm stuff. Oh, okay. Let's read that Psalm 73.
Psalm 73, I'm going to start at verse 5.
Yeah.
They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men.
Hey, during slavery is a prime example. A so-called white man had no problem walking up and down the streets. But if you were a black man, what you doing here, boy? Give me your paper, boy. What, right? Back then, literally, he was not in trouble as other men. Who was the other men? Us. You know? Us. We were the other men. All right, keep going.
Psalm 73 and verse 6. Therefore pride compasseth them about as a chain, violence covered them as a garment.
Yeah, when you look at what he did on the plantations, those were that was like the massacre, Texas chainsaw massacres, man. Beating their teeth out if they fasted, raping the woman. They would have a party, and then after a couple of drinks, he'd go into the barn and take his pick, man or woman, married or single. All right, boy or a girl. Okay, he would sit out and drink his Atlanta tea, and while you got a little Jake baby, he's got his bare feet on him, man. Okay, keeping him in the bed as a belly warmer.
They show that in that movie. It's called Mandingo.
Yep, Mandingo, 12 years a slave, birth of a nation. All right, the list goes on and on. Kunta Kinte, roots of things that he did to us literally. Okay, this is actual history and biblical history. Keep going, please.
Their eyes stand out with fatness. They have more than heart could wish.
More slaves than they need, but I need more, right? More land. I need more land. Keep going.
They are corrupt and speak wickedly concerning oppression. They speak loftily.
And think about how they speak about slavery now. Where they, what's the new thing? The critical race theory?
Critical race theory.
So everything we're saying is a theory right now.
Right, they want to take it out the schools completely. There's a big controversy over that. So what's that? Jeremiah 15:5. Who shall bemoan thee? Pretty much to get over it.
Yeah.
And everything that we're saying is very harsh.
Yeah.
It's what we went through, but we're supposed to get over it.
Right.
Now, how the hell are we going to get over something that's still affecting us today?
Right.
And how is it theory? Like right here, we got actual documents.
Well, it's not theory; it's proven fact.
Yeah.
That's why the elder Malcolm was changing proven facts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Critical race facts,
Yeah.
not theory.
Yeah.
Facts.
A little more. Was that it, brother? Well, there was just a little more on it. Could you keep going, please? Real quick.
It says, they set their mouth against the heavens,
Yeah.
and their tongue walketh through the earth.
Keep going.
Therefore his people return thither, and waters of a full cup are run out unto them.
Right. They set that was the point. They set their mouths against the heaven. They curse the Most High. They change His image into a lie. They'll kill you and make you force you. All right. And and we also haven't even touched on the fact of what they would do to a black church. The first AME Zion Church in Rochester, because we're about to transition to the history of Rochester now. The first AME, they was arguing about having a black pastor. All right, when they did give us the Bible, you had Esau sitting back making sure that Jake was lying to you. That's why the TD Snakes, the Creflo Dollars, okay? They're lying to you. But they set those men up to keep you lying, all right? And keep reading a little more, and then we'll transition to Nathaniel Rochester.
All right. It says much of the organized split between the states was initially due to the Missouri Compromise,
Yep.
which was an agreement passed in 1820 between the pro-slavery and anti-slavery factions in the United States Congress, and involving primarily the regulation of slavery in the Western territories.
Yep.
It prohibited slavery in the former Louisiana Territory, except within the boundaries of the proposed state of Missouri.
Yeah, and also too, when speaking about New York, now listen to this, brothers. When they abolished slavery in New York, guess what? It was only anyone born after 1799. So if you were born pre-1799, you were still a slave. That's why at one point in New York alone, there was 20,000 slaves and only 5,000 free, because the 5,000 free were just born after 1799. Right here in New York, right here, we're in New York State. Okay, this is a slave state. It's a slave state. But if you were before 1799, still in